You've been standing up to the woke mob more and more.
Of course.
And so, yeah, and so what's been the consequence? Not of course, not many people are doing that.
No, you're right.
Club Random.
Oh, yeah, it's going to come back and get you. No, I'm
Karma,
sorry.
Weaponized karma.
Weaponized karma. No, life is random.
Club Random.
Okay, is he wearing a three-piece suit? No.
Tuxedo instead.
Just a two-piece suit.
How are you doing?
How you doing?
Good to see you. Thanks for the invitation.
You look so good. I can't tell you how much to me, as we get older, of course, means more. That is the lead story, is that someone who I didn't know if we were going to have, you look so hale. You look like it might have been good for you. I knew someone once who, the house was burning and she ran in to get her kids. And whatever the fire did, it's like her skin was perfect. I always kid her about it.
Yeah, seems like a rough way to get good skin tone. Yeah, well, sometimes you can. Sometimes you can emerge, if not improved, at least somewhat unscathed.
I'm on Substack now.
Yeah, I heard.
Go to
Tell me about that.
Thank you, Ed. Go to billmaher.substack.com. Quentin Part 2 is our first exclusive episode. Oh, yeah, this is extras, and you'll get much more. And the Peterson Academy. If you want an actual education, join up. And if you just want an education like I do, because I want to hear somebody who's brilliant, I don't have to tell you where you can get Jordan Peterson. And you feel good?
Not bad.
You feel
Not
like you're
bad.
all over that?
No.
No?
No. I have a lot of pain.
You do?
Mm-hmm. But not compared to what I did have. So, there's that. And my head's clear.
I know a lot of people who are a pain. But
Yeah.
Where's your pain?
Kind of everywhere. Like
Really?
If you have a flu, you know what it's like? You ache?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like that.
Why do you have that?
I have no idea.
And they don't know?
Just luck. Just good luck.
No medical experts can...
No, it's probably immunological reaction.
Yeah. I mean, not to get on my high horse about medicine, but I'm always on the wrong side of the woke on medicine. Or maybe, I don't know.
You're on the wrong side of the woke fairly frequently recently.
Yes, but especially on that one. They really hate it when I went after obesity and, not in a mean way, just in a way that's saying, and it's so funny, now that Ozempic is getting everybody back into shape, I notice these articles saying, it's not just good for weight loss. And they list like 20 other things it's good for. And I'm like, hey, you idiots. What it means is obesity was always bad for everything. And now that people aren't so fat, all these other things are getting better too. It's not the Ozempic.
I interviewed this psychiatrist, Chris Palmer, who works at the McLean Hospital in Boston. And that's, I suppose, the premier psychiatric hospital maybe in the world. And they're using the carnivore diet to treat schizophrenia, manic depressive disorder, and endogenous depression. So depression without a cause.
Meat.
It's all meat, yeah.
That's what you used.
Yeah, and he's had remarkable success with it. And this is really something, right? Because those are very intractable conditions, especially schizophrenia. And I never did think that they were like psychological in origin. They're so serious that it's very difficult to shake the suspicion that something has just gone seriously wrong, like physiologically. And anyways, they're having, I think he told me that they're running 50 different studies examining the effect of diet on these serious mental disorders. So that's very exciting to watch.
And again, this is one of those things, meat, that really shouldn't even have a political dimension because it's just science. And the science is out. This is more evidence to me that, well, we don't know a lot of shit. This is always one of my issues that they argue with me about medicine is that, it's not an uncommon story to hear somebody say, yeah, I have some pain. They can't really figure out why. They can't figure out a lot. It's not an indictment. It's just that's the century we're living in where they just still can't figure out a lot.
Yeah, well, people turn out to be complicated.
And medicine is very complicated.
Yes, that's for sure. And some things the medical profession do very well. They're very good at joint replacements, for example.
They're good at many things. They're very good at, after they're being very bad at preventative medicine.
Yeah.
When you're right at the end of the line, swooping in at the last minute
with
heroic measures.
It's hard to monetize preventive strategies, hey?
Correct.
And it's also hard to
Right.
get people credit for them.
That's so
You know,
true.
it's like,
right.
here's a major problem you didn't have.
That that's a
yeah,
great point.
it's really rough. I mean,
Right.
that's a real strategic and tactical problem. There have been attempts at times to pay doctors for how many people they keep healthy, you know, to give them a crew of people, but those are hard systems to set up economically.
Well, it's a hard sell to the people who make money on ill health. That's what it is. But you're right. I've seen those studies. Let's incentivize keeping people.
Yeah.
I think there was one in McLaren, Texas. They did it, the biggest one, and of course it works. You know, you
Well, if you
can
set up the incentive structures
yeah, you
properly,
can incentivize anything.
you can, yes.
But well, in any event, you look. I mean, I've had doctors who always say, you know, I can tell when someone walks in the office if they're healthy. Really, it's a look that you get right away. You know, I mean, this is part of Biden's problem. It's like he just looked bad. You can't look. You can't look bad, and then of course he sounded like a junkie when he talked, but for at the end. But you know, you look healthy. You
Hooray.
look hale.
Hooray.
And I know you have. You're starting your own college.
Yeah, well, it's well started. We have 30,000 students
Wow.
in 3 weeks. Yeah, and it's going great.
What's it called?
It's called Peterson Academy, which wasn't a name I was particularly fond of. You know, it's got that potential for something
Physical or online?
online.
Online.
Yeah. When we have a stable of about 40 professors at the moment, and they're
Wow.
top rate. And we launched with about 20 courses. We have another 30 already recorded. They're the best courses that have ever been offered publicly in terms of their quality of content and delivery, and also the production values are unparalleled. It's Hollywood level production quality.
What does that mean? Production value for a course?
Tight editing,
Editing of what? The lecture.
camera shots. So a lot of
So when the students are watching online, it's not happening live.
No, it's not live. It's recorded in front of a live audience.
I see.
And we film people against a white background and with no angles. And so we filled it all with imagery and text, AI generated. And they're beautiful, actually. The courses are beautiful. And
So you don't not only hear what the professor is saying about the Shout of Turin, but then you see it.
yeah, right.
Because you've added that's production value.
yeah.
Yeah, we certainly didn't have that when I was a kid. But on the other hand, you could raise your hand and ask the professor a question.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's an advantage if you're in a small course in a bricks and mortar university. But in many universities, the courses are immense. You know, you have 500 students in a course, and there's no interpersonal interaction. And there's no reason fundamentally not to replace that with video, especially given the quality of our professors. Like I would say at the typical state university, let's say, 10% of the courses are of high quality educationally and in terms of their capacity to grip interest. And all of our courses are high quality. And
What in your mind constitutes low quality? That it's more indoctrinated?
Dull?
Dull.
Dull and often wrong, ideologically addled, taught by people who don't know how to teach. I mean, when you train as a professor, you're not trained to teach. And it's not like faculties of education know how to train people to teach, you say, in the K-12 system. So being able to lecture is a rare gift. You know, most people use PowerPoint and read it, or they just read their notes, which is, you know, that's a terrible thing to do to people. You just give people the damn notes if you're going to read them. And
Right.
PowerPoint, reading off a PowerPoint is not lecturing. You know, if you're a good lecturer, first of all, you know way more about the topic you're talking about than you actually have to deliver in the lecture. Like your knowledge should be
course.
very expansive. And then what you should be doing is modeling, because you have to realize, well, and you would realize this because you've done stand-up comedy and you know how to perform. It's called a lecture theater for a reason. It's a theater because it's a performance. And then you might say, well, what are you performing? And the answer is you're modeling how you wrestle with ideas. You're modeling how you think. When I do my lectures and tour, I never do the same lecture twice. It's always spontaneous. You know, I have stories that I tell that are part of a set in a way, but I'm always trying to solve a problem or address a problem in real time. And if I'm fortunate and the lecture works out well, it has a narrative arc and it has a punchline. Now, that doesn't always happen because I don't necessarily know where it's going. But all the people we pick to lecture are expert lecturers. They're captivating. And most of them, many of them are also revolutionary in their thinking. Two of my favorites, for example, conceptually, Jonathan Pajot is an Orthodox icon carver from Quebec, and he's probably the deepest religious thinker I've ever encountered. And his lectures are great. And he has done some work with a cognitive psychologist named John Vervaeke. He's also quite a revolutionary. He was a very popular professor at the University of Toronto. And they're putting forward a view of the world that's really new and exciting, I think, and meaningful to people. And so we're very interested and excited about
It's
this.
funny because I think of part of the problem, what's going on in campus these days. And as we're taping this on September 11th, the schools are newly back in session. And I remember when I was that age and heading off at this time of year, I couldn't wait to get back to my encampment.
Right.
So I could protest for a terrorist organization. But apropos of that, I really feel...
An Iran-funded terrorist organization, right? And the protests are Iran-funded as well.
What do you mean by that? Oh, Iran.
Iran.
Yeah. I thought you meant the Rand Corporation.
No.
'cause that was back
well, you never know about that either.
Right.
But no, it's really appalling.
Oh, yeah. So, but I feel like part of the problem with that kind of thinking, with what has gone wrong with the very, very far left, which is absolutely embodied in academia, is that everything has to be a revolution.
Yeah, right.
I saw this quote from the kids back at Columbia the other day. They had put out a manifesto, and they use language now like, we need to eradicate America at its root.
Yeah, right.
Like, this is, by the way, something we heard in the late 60s from certain what they became sort of terrorist organizations like the Weathermen.
Yeah, definitely.
You know,
yeah, much right out of the communist playbook. Eradicate the past, and all the people who lived in the past. That's just a side effect.
But I mean, to eradicate America at its root, like what? So you're talking obviously about a different kind of revolution.
Definitely, yeah. This revolution is more grounded in tradition. Well, part of that is...
Well, that's more of a renaissance then, no?
Yes, that's right. That's a better way of thinking about it. Definitely, definitely.
Because
I think partly what we're struggling towards, and partly with Peterson Academy, is it's a more synthetic view of the world. Like I sent you my new book.
I read it.
And so
I told you, I gave you a blurb.
I know you did. And so you can see partly what I'm aiming at, and this is what many of the thinkers on Peterson Academy are aiming at, insofar as they're aiming at anything other than trying to express what they believe to be the truth, is a synthesis. And so I've been interested for a very long time in the concordance between evolutionary biology and psychology and religious mythology, because there's a deep analogy, there's a deep concordance, which you'd expect. If knowledge unifies at the highest level, then there shouldn't be contradictions in the different domains of knowledge. And I don't think there are. I think contradictions are apparent rather than real. They're a consequence of misunderstanding. So I'm trying to, and have been for a very long time, with this new book I wrote, We Who Wrestle with God, the rule was that I wouldn't formulate any proposition that I couldn't justify scientifically as well as from a narrative perspective. And so that was a fun exercise, it's a rigorous exercise, and it's been very useful to me.
And it's funny because, as I told you, it really brought me back reading your book to being at Cornell.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
The only good thing for me about Cornell was I did have intellectual epiphanies, and they did give me an amazing, this is the 1970s, so they were still teaching like horrible stuff like what white people did.
Right.
People, I'm sorry that it had to be white people who came up with a few of the good things, but they did, and we still teach them. And now in colleges, I feel like that has to go out the window because George Washington had slaves or some, crazy shit like that. But I got a great, I think, liberal arts education. And so that's kind of what your book reminded me of. But I mean, I'm in a different place than I was in the 70s. I've been an atheist, and I felt like I feel like you're a lapsed atheist.
Oh.
I feel like it's a paradox that someone of your extraordinary intellectual abilities is trying to reanimate this dead hooker called religion
Oh.
and bring it back to life in some way or find what's useful in it. Why try to take these?
Because you get false substitutes emerge.
I know what does that mean?
Well, imagine that your systems of ideas, imagine that they're either unified or not unified. Those are basically the options, right? And if they are unified, there's something under which they have to be unified. And if they're not unified, then they're in conflict, and that's not good. That makes you anxious, it makes you hopeless, it breeds social discord.
Ideas are in conflict, you're saying?
Yes.
But ideas are always in conflict.
But if they're in conflict too much, people go to war and they fall apart.
Well,
right? I mean, look, you want diversity and you want difference in opinion because you want to keep things churning. But
what has made people go to war more than anything? Belief in who's the real God. I mean, religion, I could take any number of reasons why I think it's better to junk the whole thing, but start with religions are supremacist. Just by their nature. If you're telling people what happens when you die, which nobody knows, and you're telling who the great master of the universe is, you kind of have to be in a place where you can't abide other thoughts on the subject. And certainly all religions are like that. Islam is super supremacist in that way. And a lot of the people today who are speaking for it will tell you right to your face, why am I supporting this? Because Islam is the best. Of course, obviously, that's why we justify these things. And certainly the Bible, same thing. I mean, God is very supremacist for the Jews. I find it very amusing that the thing that they are accusing the Jews of today of doing, colonizing, ethnic cleansing, which are neither true, are true in the Bible. That's exactly what God tells the Jews to do. Ethnically cleanse the Canaanites, commit genocide if you have to. God tells them, kill all the men. This is this in the Bible. You've written about it in there. To kill all the men, the Midianites, another number of people, kill all the men and the women who aren't virgins, kids. I mean,
standard pattern of human warfare.
I know, but for people who take a book as the guide to morality, it's filled with terrible morality. Club Random is brought to you by the audio marketing gurus at Radioactive Media. Isn't it time you got serious about attracting new customers? Why don't you do something new and adventurous and utilize a new marketing angle by harnessing the power of audio and partner with shows like mine? There's no shows like mine. This one. The team at Radioactive Media can ensure that your message will stand out by driving you new customers by using the power nationally on podcast, terrestrial, satellite, and streaming radio, the big four. Radioactive Media has been partnering with Club Random since the beginning, and they can create a customizable campaign for your company's needs so you can attract new and qualified customers, not losers. Radioactive believes so much in the power of audio marketing. They put their money where their mouths are by using it themselves here now. Contact Radioactive Media. Don't fall behind your competition. Go to radioactivemedia.com or text the word random to 511-511. Terms, conditions, message, data rates may apply. But again, not to keep beating a dead horse about why religion is so horrible in any form, but if you read the teachings of the Mormon Church until recently, the things they say about Black people are just horrendous. The worst kind of racist thing. And they justify it by talking about that
Ham.
No, that's interesting. They get it. The Black people in religion get it from two sources. The Mormons talk about Cain.
Yeah.
That Black people are a descendant of Cain, and because Cain is a murderer and he did a dark deed, I mean, they're very open about that's why they have dark skin, to remind us of the darkness in their past. I mean, it's just fucking ugly. Yes, the other thing that the Southerners in this country used was Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham
Ham was the contemptuous son.
Also the one who wanted to fuck his dad. I guess, or maybe both. I don't know. But Ham, think the black line runs from Ham.
Right.
But both of them, again, use religion to be justifying what we would today call one of the worst things, racism.
Okay, well, don't look. Right.
Is it worth it to like resurrect that whole structure when it comes with that? It's what I call the one turd in the pool theory. Like, I mean, a book that contains, okay, we're okay with slavery. It's terrible on women. It's terrible on homosexuals. It's like if somebody said, yeah, but you know what? There's only one turd in the pool. Jump on in. I wouldn't jump in if there was even one turd in the pool. And I wouldn't want to like resurrect a book and a mythology that.
Well, okay.
You get me?
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing incoherent about that argument. Although I think it still leaves you in an awkward position, because the postmodernist would say, take a look at your stance and say, well, you defend Western civilization, and there's plenty of turds floating in that pool. Well, but
okay.
Right.
All right, you win that one.
Well, it's rough because
there are plenty of turds
we
floating
look back
in that
at
pool.
the past,
That's true.
right? And
but we can. Well, but here's the thing: we can fish our turds out. Like we had slavery, but we fished that turd out of the pool. You can't do that. The Bible is the Bible.
Yeah,
it's there, and it was written by God.
It was the Protestant evangelists that did that.
Did what?
Took that particular bit of pollution out of the pool, right? That was Wilberforce in the UK, and he was completely motivated by religious motivations.
People who were for emancipation.
He was the one who convinced the UK to put their navy against slavery.
In 1776, when our country was declared independent, there were 24 people in this country who belonged to the Abolitionist Society.
Mm-hmm.
They were mostly Quakers.
Mm-hmm.
24 people in the whole fucking country thought abolition of slaves was a good idea.
Yeah. Well, Wilberforce in the UK started out kind of as one.
But it gathered steam.
Right.
It gathered steam. And 87 years later, 7 years later, we did something about it. That's the big argument against religion versus science. It's self-correcting. We can be self-correcting. Religion, to a lot of people, seems too rigid. I mean, its virtue is that it's set in stone. This is what we believe. That's what they're counting on, is that people want that sort of certainty about something.
Okay, so
that it's not going to change. That's what the Pope is always selling.
So one of the criticisms that Christ levies against the Pharisees in particular is exactly that criticism. He says to them, this is one of the things that sets himself up for crucifixion, because it's a very vicious insult. He tells the Pharisees that they worship their own doctrines as if they're religious truths, and that they would have killed the prophets. Had they been around in the time of the prophets that they purport to worship, they would have killed them. Said that they walk across the graves of their own prophets. Yeah. They haunt the graves of their own prophets. That's a good way of thinking about it. So he accuses them of a very deep cynicism. And he's trying to make the same point you're making, which is that you're not supposed to worship the static doctrines of men as if they're religious doctrines, and that there's something in the transformation process that isn't encapsulated in the letter of the law. So what would you say? You don't privilege the letter of the law over the spirit of the law. And I think part of what the genuine religious enterprise is the attempt to identify what that spirit is, that dynamic spirit. And I think that can be done. I think, and it has an affinity, for example, with this idea that it's incumbent on you to voluntarily confront the tragedy and malevolence of life. And that if you do that, it will transform you. And we know that clinically. Like, all the different schools of psychotherapy converged on a few realizations. One of them was that it was useful to get people to get their story straight, to recount their story.
Right.
Another was that if you expose people to the things that they're afraid of and that they're avoiding, that they get stronger. That works. That's how you help people overcome anxiety, for example, social anxiety. It's also the fundamental mechanism of learning, is to put yourself on the edge of disaster and dance there, and that expands you.
Gordon Liddy once said that he was afraid of lightning, so he tied himself to a tree during a storm. I mean, that's an extreme version.
And see, now we know there isn't a God, because if there was, and it was Gordon Liddy tied to a tree. Yeah, but look, you use exposure training in therapy all the time. And a lot of what you do when you're trying to help people heal is return to that idea of the snake on the staff. It's like, what are you afraid of that's stopping you from moving forward? That's what you try to find out in therapy. It's like, what is it that's paralyzing you? Okay, now can we break that down into manageable bites so that you can confront it? And people, see, it was a weird thing because the behaviorists were the first people that figured this out, that you could expose people to what they were afraid of voluntarily, and that they would become less afraid. That was the theory. They'd become less afraid. The psychoanalyst said that's not going to work because maybe someone's afraid of an elevator, but they're not really afraid of the elevator. They're afraid of death. And if you get them to relax about the elevator, their fear will just pop up somewhere else.
Right.
But that isn't what happened. What happened was that if you got people to face any one thing they were afraid of voluntarily, they started to learn that they were more capable than they thought. And that made their bravery generalize. And that's really what kids do when they go out into the world, right? They find a challenge and they overcome it. And they learn that they're the sort of creature that can find a challenge and overcome it. And that generalizes. And that happened in psychotherapy. And then there's a radicalization of that idea in the Gospels. And in this story of the brazen serpent, it's like there's no limit to that. You take the worst, and this is also part and parcel of hero myth, because the most ancient story we have, literally, is a variant of the dragon treasure story, right? That the quest is...
I love that part in the book.
Yeah. It's a very useful thing to know.
Look, if you're a person who has been listening for this last half hour and doesn't know what the fuck we're talking about, that book isn't for you. But if you're a person who has even a little bit of understanding of the Bible, you don't even have to be religious. It's a historical document. I really found this book so fascinating. It's so great. It's like what you were describing about your lecture. It's like your lecture in a book form. You know, somebody who knows how to tell a story, make you think differently things. Even in the blurb I gave you, and you're a friend, I'm trying to be supportive. I had to even say at the end, I didn't get all the way with him.
Yeah.
He didn't convince me, because I feel like you're more religious than you used to be, or at least willing to give it a try. And maybe that has to do with you getting sick. I don't know.
I don't think so.
But what a ride to go on.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
I love that book.
I'm glad to hear that.
And people will too. I mean, you just have to be interested in great stories. I mean, why does the Bible survive? A lot of it is good stories. It's a lot of stories.
They're stories you need to know too.
And it doesn't bother people that they're told by, both Testaments are an anthology. It's funny that in the New Testament, they right out say, this is 4 different versions, and they're not even going to match, and we don't care. The Old Testament, I think this is still the case, but certainly when I studied it in college, they identified 4 main writers of the Old Testament. They called them J, E, D, and P. And they would be like, J wrote this in 850 BC, and then obviously this is added. I mean, this is how scholars see it. But it's kind of the same thing.
It's an aggregation.
It's an aggregation of people over... Now, the New Testament, it's much closer. Mark is about 70 AD, and the last one, John, is about 110. So there's about 40 years. But all of them take place well after Jesus died. They never knew Jesus, the gospel writers. The only one who was close to Jesus' time is St. Paul, who's writing in the 50s. Jesus dies in 33. And he knows nothing about Jesus. It's so weird that the people who wrote later know everything about him. Paul doesn't even conceive of Jesus as someone who lived on earth. He said if he had lived on earth, he wouldn't have been a priest. He wouldn't have even been a priest. That's in St. Paul. He doesn't know anything about Mary, Joseph, the virgin birth, the crucifixion, miracles, walking on water, fishing with the guys, and then nothing. I find that kind of weird. Today we are talking about hymns. Guys, sometimes intimate moments happen spontaneously. I can't think of any at the moment, but okay, let's go with this. And we always want to be ready so we can perform, wink, wink, in the bedroom. Hims has treatments that can help you stay hard and last longer, giving you that boost of confidence so you can be ready whenever the mood strikes. Hims is changing men's healthcare by providing access to affordable sexual health treatments, all from the comfort of your couch. Hims provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments. ED, I'm pretty sure that's erectile dysfunction, such as chewable hard mints, proven treatments like Viagra and Cialis, or their generics for up to 95% cheaper. Wow, 95, that's pretty good. The process is simple and 100% online. No uncomfortable doctor's visits. As opposed to what? Comfortable doctor's visits? Just answer a series of questions on their site and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option and prescribe your medication ships directly to you for free. No insurance is needed. Pay one low price for your treatments, online visits, ongoing shipments, and provider messaging. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/random. That's HIMS.com/random for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/random. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with the healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. Duh. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
There's no shortage of things that are incomprehensibly strange in the biblical library.
So being sick had nothing to do with
Not much. No, I wouldn't say
Okay.
so. I mean, what did being sick do? Well, it made me more grateful. That's for sure.
But isn't that wrapped up with religion?
Well, that's partly why I'm bringing it up. I mean, I was in excruciating pain for 3 years. And so now when I'm sitting here and I'm not on fire, I'm reasonably pleased about that when I have enough sense to remember,
Right.
and that, is that a permanent change? I suspect so. 3 years is a long time.
I mean, it does sound like what God did to Job. I'm just saying, it's very.
Well, I think
like
that
if-
happens to everybody to some degree. I mean, every single person in the course of their life has to deal with the fact that somewhat random, extremely unpleasant things come along, and to some degree, even independent of your moral conduct.
Oh, totally.
And then, well, just look. If you're a bad actor, the probability that horrible things are going to come your way is all things considered
Yes.
quite radically increased. But
Yes and no. I mean, nothing bad happened to Saddam Hussein until we captured his ass and hung him. But he had 65 years of being able to act like the most ridiculous tyrant in the world and get away with it. Other people, again, they don't do anything and something bad happens.
Well-
I feel like when people connect their behavior with some sort of punishment or reward, that's childish. That's when people go karma. I did a whole thing on this on my show once. What a bunch of bullshit karma. Americans interpret karma to mean like, you took the last parking spot and now shit's gonna happen to you. That's Schadenfreude, that's not karma. But that's how people think of it, karma. Oh yeah, it's gonna come back and get you. No, I'm
karma,
sorry.
weaponized karma.
Weaponized karma, no. Life is random. Good people get punished for no reason, and bad people go unpunished. You just, yeah, you're right. I mean, if you're some sort of a petty criminals always committing crimes, you're probably going to wind up in jail, and that's not good. But not everything has a logical connection to it.
Well, and lots of times good people suffer terribly.
Terribly.
Right, and that's partly what Job is trying to deal with. And,
Exactly.
and part of what he does do is it's a strange thing because he takes refuge in his own ignorance, and I think there's some utility in that. There has to be, because we have to, if we don't operate on the assumption that there's something like an intrinsic moral order, it's very difficult for us to conjure up the courage to continue to exist when things go seriously sideways. But it's worse than that. Like, it's worse than that because, and this is why I brought up the Cain story earlier. If you are tortured, even unjustly, and you lose faith in yourself and the structure of existence, it isn't only that you become demoralized, it's that you tilt towards malevolence. You start to work against things. And this is why, for example, I'm not thrilled in the least with the antinatalist types. They make this claim that existence is characterized by suffering that's so intense that it would be better if consciousness itself just ceased to exist. And you can that's Mephistopheles' case, by the way.
It's Silenus in Greek mythology.
Well, you can
yes.
make a case for it.
What would be better to have never been born?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, and you might say, okay, fair enough. What you're doing essentially is saying that the suffering in existence invalidates its utility. But what if it is the case that if you believe that you become an agent that produces suffering? Well, that is what seems to happen, is that
Right.
like once you turn against life, I mean, look, everyone's going to have a time in their life when they think, oh my God, like really? Is this worth it? Like you watch someone you love suffer, or maybe you're in agony for doing something good, let's say in the worst possible situation. You think, really? Like really? And so then maybe you get cynical and you get bitter. But the problem is that has a direction too. That is what happens to Cain. Like he starts out cynical and bitter, but he ends up murderous, and his descendants are genocidal. Like that doesn't seem like a good alternative. And so what you see in Job is this insistence, and it's a terrifying insistence, that you are required to maintain faith in your essential goodness, despite your flaws, which is already a hard thing to do, and your faith in the fundamental benevolence of, what would you say, of the created order. Because anything else hurts you, but it's worse than that. It produces a kind of malevolence that spreads. And I think that's like... You asked me what the relationship was between me being ill and this interest in religious belief. And I said that wasn't the primary mover. The primary mover for me has always been the study of atrocity. Because I spent a lot of time as a psychopathologist studying the actions of the people who have done the worst things. And they're unimaginably bad. I mean, Iris Chang's book, The Rape of Nanking. The Nazis are the good guys in that book.
Well,
right. I'm serious. That's how rough it was.
For those who may not remember, 1937, the Japanese are on the march.
Yeah.
And they're about to, Pearl Harbor was 1941, so this is 4 years before Pearl Harbor, and they were on the march in Asia, and they went into China, Manchuria, and what they did, I remember reading somebody's column recently, it was on the anniversary of the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And it went into great detail about what the Japanese did not just in Manchuria,
Iris
in
Chang
Nanking.
committed suicide after writing that book.
Boy, when it's so bad, even the book writer kills it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, this guy said, I know there's a lot of hand-wringing in America about Nagasaki and Hiroshima, not in Asia. They were not upset at all that the Japanese regime was taken out as brutally as it was, because what they did, I mean, to your point about the rape of Nanking, was just like, we won't like.
See, well, and that's also the conundrum at a relatively deep level that's being contended with in the Old Testament. It's like, so the Canaanites in general, like from a narrative perspective, the Canaanites are the evil descendants of Cain.
Right.
Okay, and so the people that are being fought against are the cynical, bitter, twisted, nihilistic, genocidally motivated, sadistic murderers, let's say. Well, then the question is, if that's the enemy that you're up against, what exactly is the moral thing to do? And you just made a case, painful it is to point it out, that you made a case that there are patterns of behavior that are so despicable that what's justified in that situation? Was the atom bomb justified? Well, we're arguing about that now. And people take the same tack with regards to the firebombing of Dresden, right? And you think, well, the Nazis, they were pretty bad. And so what do we do about that? And the answer is, well, we don't exactly know. It's not like it's simple. You know, how do you limit your reprisals? Well, we're dealing with that right now with the situation in Israel.
Did you see the guy on Tucker Carlson recently who was giving a revisionist history of?
Was it Cooper? Was that his name?
I don't remember his name.
Think so.
I had never heard of him. Tucker
Yeah.
Carlson introduced, and of course, we're talking about Tucker Carlson, who I think is crazy, insane about a lot of things. But he introduced him as like the most important historian of the blah, blah, blah. And this guy, I'm just paraphrasing like mad, but like, no, you got it all wrong. Hitler was the good guy and Churchill was the bad guy. Now, you would agree that's insane, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because there are people in this world who think that that's who you are. That I
me.
am.
Yes, I know.
You know, I'm not one of those
Yes,
people.
I do
but I'm
understand
just saying,
that.
like, when you're not fully on the woke train, you are somehow just thrown all the way across the field into that bin. That's what bothers me about the way people react to you. It's like, and me.
I have some objections to it too.
Yeah, and me. You know, it's like it's just
how's that going for you?
So
because
childish.
You've been
it's so naive and childish.
You've been standing up to the woke mob more and more.
Of course.
And so what's been the consequence? Not of course. Not many people are doing that.
No, you're right. Well, the consequence is some people left the building. I can't give an estimate, and I don't care, and I don't miss them. Other people joined. Like, there's a lot of people in this country who are tired of the hate and the hating, and I am one of them. I don't want to hate half the country, and I don't hate half the country. I would never vote for Trump, and I think he's an abomination. And Kamala, you know, do I have to love everything? No. And it's fine. And I thought she was great last night, and I can't be more thrilled that I would put my money on that she's going to win the election. But I don't hold my tongue about what is insane about the other side, because it is. It's not nearly as threatening as not conceding elections, which Trump does not do. So that's where I am on that. But I also understand that Trump, I think, will go away after this. I think he's kind of finally reached his Joe McCarthy stage where it's like people are tired of it. It just took longer. But Trumpism won't go away. And I would define Trumpism as a fear of the insanity of the far left, which is not completely unjustified. And therefore, anyone is better than that. And Trump proves it because he is that anyone. If he's okay, if he, in all his monstrosity, is still better than what you fear about the left, that's a problem the left has to deal with. It would be so easy. This thing I just mentioned about Colombia, where they were saying we want to eradicate the United States as it is. How about pick some Democratic politician, pick that as your Sister Soldier moment. Remember Sister Soldier? That's what Clinton, he made a thing about a rapper who had said, we should take a week out and just kill white people. Now, no one was...
It'd take longer than a week.
It would take... Exactly. But she said...
He's just not committed to the task.
She was being reasonable. She said, just take a week. Okay. And nobody really took this seriously. He purposely picked on that. And someone could do that. Does anybody think most kids in America want to eradicate America? Of course not. But just pick out something to signal to the middle of this country, we're not as crazy as the super crazies on the far left. Just pick it. That's a Sister Soldier moment. We don't want to eradicate America. Okay? So Trumpism will not, they will find someone.
You know,
they will find another Trump. It's not really just him. As long as there's things that scare them about the things you've gotten in trouble with, gender, and the hysterics about racism, not that it isn't a real thing, but all this, freedom of speech issues, parenting issues, all these things that really scare them. And again, not completely without justification.
Well, there's plenty of reason to be scared of the radical left.
That's what I'm saying. Until you take care of that problem, they will always come up with a Trump.
So
that's it.
I spent 5 years working with Democrats, trying to pull them to the center. And I had a lot of behind-the-scenes conversations with people, virtually none of them public because virtually no one would talk to me publicly.
We're talking about politicians?
Yes, yes, and many of them. And I asked them all, on the Democrat side, I asked them all the same question, purposefully. And I asked this to RFK too. When does the left go too far? Because obviously the left can go too far. And none of them would answer. And so,
Really?
not one. Dead
In
serious.
private?
In private as well.
Come
Yeah.
on.
No, I'm telling you the truth. And
I know some people who would answer that.
Well, look, it's also, I stopped doing a fair bit of that about a year and a half ago. And things have changed. There are more people on the moderate Democrat side who are willing to draw a line with regard to the radical leftists, but they're still not very good at defining it. So they'd reverse the question and ask me, like, when do you think they go too far? And I thought that was simple. It's like equality of outcome. And the universal response to that was always the same. Oh, they don't really mean that.
Well,
it's like, yeah, they do.
To be fair, it is more complicated than just that. Equality, meaning equality of outcome, I believe in that too. Equity is what they changed it to, a lot of people on the far left, and Biden went along with all of it, means no, some people started out not from the same place, so we should make an effort to redress that. I believe in some of that theoretically, and some of it in how you would put it into practice. You can't just say, okay, let's, some people weren't even at the starting gate for the first 350 years, and now go. Of course, there's going to be remedial, I think, things that we can do, and we're doing many of them. We're doing some of them anyway. But do I think it means we should, like, make it that medical school is not something that you can only get into completely by merit? No, because no one wants a doctor who got there by affirmative action.
Yes.
Right, but you would count what I said to be valid, right? That you can't say if you started 300 years late, we expect you to be.
I guess this is one of the things that probably tilts me in the more conservative direction, and partly as a social scientist, is that well-meaning interventions seldom have the outcome that's designed.
Correct.
So even and it's really a
No, I
radical
would agree.
problem. Okay, so the historical solution to the problem of unequal distribution of, say, even of opportunity is that everyone is treated the same under the law, regardless of anything, regardless of wealth, regardless of race,
Right.
age, status. It's the same. Now, obviously, there's elements of that appear unjust. So if you make $1 million a year and you get a $1,000 fine for speeding, that's a lot different than a $1,000 fine for someone who makes $12,000 a year. And so then you might say, well, maybe your fine should be income adjusted. Okay, but the problem with that is, like, okay, you're differentially privileged with regards to your wealth. Well, how many dimensions of differential privilege are there? And the answer to that is, well, there's as many dimensions as there are differences between people. And that's an infinite number of differential advantages and disadvantages. And so I'll give you an example that I think is quite germane. So there's obviously disparity in wealth. Well, one of the best predictors of wealth is age. Older people are richer. Well, why? Well, obviously, because they've had their whole life to work.
Race.
So, yeah.
Even more.
Okay, but let me make the case with this for a minute. Okay, so then you might say, well, it's very unfair that the old people have the money. It's like, yeah, fair enough, buddy. But the young people have the youth. And if, I'm serious,
So
and if
true.
you took the old person
Right.
and said, look, you give me all your money,
Right.
I'm 18, you give me all your
Right.
money, and I'll be 65, and you get to be 18 and broke.
But would you actually take that bargain? Because I wouldn't. Even though I'm punching 70 in the mouth, I still wouldn't do it because my head would still be my 18-year-old head, and I just couldn't take any more of that. Your stupidity, or at least my stupidity at that age, caused so much pain, unnecessary pain in my life, that I would rather be this age.
Well, That's another sign of differential advantage, is you've got the disadvantages of being old, but now you're not quite as stupid. So,
Not
you know,
quite.
that's
No,
right,
it's
right.
it's awesome not being stupid.
Yeah, right,
It
right.
just is awesome. There's like that old commercial, priceless. It's priceless,
What
not
do you,
being fucking
what
stupid.
do you think is better about you now than when you were young?
I'm not fucking stupid. I
Well,
don't make stupid mistakes. I don't make that. I mean, I'm sure people would say, "Oh, Bill, you said this the other week," and I meant it, and it wasn't horrible.
well,
and I-
frequency and intensity
you
also
know,
matter.
also, I'm mixing dangerous chemicals every week, okay? I'm playing third base okay? I'm gonna get more hard hit grounders. And, but but personally, much more, even my personal life. I mean, men take a very long time to mature. I mean, when a woman says like, boy, you know, you need a 40-year head start. Yeah, you do. You need like a 40-year head start to be on the same level. It's just, at least it's crazy how immature, as society would define immature, you can be, or I was, late into life, because the immature things are the fun ones. I still don't want to give them up. You know, people are different. We talked about this the last time you were here. You know, we could not be more different in that way. I mean, you're so much more a woman's dream, and I'm like a woman's nightmare in many ways, like never committed, never got married, never wanted to. I never understood how people could, and I see so many people who talk about it, like married couples, and they talk very fondly about like, oh, remember when we were in love? And they're reminiscing about this time in their life that lasted like maybe 2 years. And they're living off that for the rest of their life. For the rest of their life, they're kind of remembering, oh yeah, that time when you were crazy in love and you'd have sex all the time and it was hot. And it's like, yeah, and I had that and went, can we just keep this going forever? Would that really be the worst thing? But you probably have both.
Well, it's something that you can practice.
Really?
Well, the way I look at it is, and I guess this is biological and theological at the same time, is that we can start with the way that you perceive children. So you don't see your own child the same way you see someone else's child. And so then the question is, well, are you deluded about your own child, or are you deluded about other people's children? And I would say, and I'm trying to think about this scientifically, is that you're kind of blind to other people's children. And there's a lot of reasons for that. You see them, in a sense, you see them generically. Like, most people show their best side to children, so I'm not trying to make a blanket condemnation of people. But I think that when you have your own child, then that's a child that you actually see. And so there's a depth of love there. And it's because your perceptions aren't inhibited. You actually see what's there. And so you fall in love. And then you make this commitment to the child. Now, I think the same thing happens to you when you fall in love with someone, is that you actually see into them much more deeply than you ever see into anyone else. And that's something that you're given. It's like a grace, or you could think about it as the action of an instinct. I don't really care which of those particular pathways of interpretation you take, but it's something that's offered to you. And I think that you can practice maintaining that. It's hard. It takes work.
Yeah.
Like, it's an art.
That's always the one that gets me off the trail.
Well, people aren't
Work.
trained to do this. Like, it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so like one
Yeah,
of the things that I do with my wife is I try to remember that I love her. Like, I try to remember that. And I don't mean I bring the idea I love her to mind. That isn't what I mean.
Right.
I try to remember what it was like to see her when I was deeply in love with her, and then to have that happen again. And you can practice that. It works. It's hard, but it's like ridiculously worthwhile. And
Right.
I think my wife and I learned that more deeply in the last 3 or 4 years, because I just about died and she just about died. And it was damn close in both situations. And so then we didn't die. And it was like, it's very strange, because she thought she was dead and I was sure that I was gone. I thought, there's no way I'm coming back from this.
So when you're going through like some shit where people are attacking you for something, is she like right by you, always like saying
she-
like, look at what these assholes are saying. You're so right, and like making you feel, because I know the feeling as you do,
Yeah.
of like being in the glare because you said something or did something that they hate and they're screaming, and I always think of tennis matches. You ever watch a tennis match?
Yeah.
And the player's girlfriend is always in the audience, and they cut to her, and she's just like bleeding along with him on every point. Like it's almost like she's in the match too. Is that
Well, I
what
would say,
when you go
look,
through?
I would say my wife is definitely in the match too, but she's not exactly the bleeding along with you type. Well, seriously, my wife, as far as women go, she's not particularly agreeable. She's fairly combative. And so, well, I like that about her. I like that about her.
Really?
Yeah, I like that about
See,
her
we're
because
so-
she's a rough player, but she's fundamentally on my side. And so how does she stand beside me? It's not so much exactly with empathy. It's more like strategic play, So if an attack comes, and I do this with my kids too, because we're quite tightly unified in that way. It's like we take it on as a war. It's like, okay, you're after us, eh?
Right. I feel like it's stronger with the kids then. And that's why maybe a great reason to have kids is because, even Eric Trump is like, hey, Dad.
Yeah, well, that is
I'm-
definitely an advantage of having kids. There's no doubt about it. But my wife is like, we're pretty allied. We're pretty now. She's also quite. She's discriminating. Like the reason that I wouldn't characterize her affiliation with me exactly as empathic is because she's quite judgmental. Like she's expecting me to do things the right way. And if I don't do them, she's not happy about that. But that's actually helpful because in these situations
When
where,
was the last time you needed to be righted?
oh God, all the time.
Really?
Oh God,
Name
absolutely.
one. Really? You need the woman to sit there and go, hey, you're really off the mark there.
Well, it's you know what it's like. The situations that
What-
you're in, let's say politically,
When
they're
was the last
complicated.
time tell me the last time she corrected something in you? And you were like, oh, thank you for telling me that because I was about to be such a fucking asshole. And then
I guess it's probably more subtle than that in some ways. I mean, so for example, she's watching me in public all the time and the way that I'm interacting with people. And we discuss that to make sure that I'm treating people properly when I'm out in public in general, when people come up to me or when we're in restaurants or anything like that.
like what? If she wasn't there, you'd fucking give them
No,
a...
but like if people, I don't know, when you're met by people in public, what's your philosophy of conduct when people meet you in public?
Be awesome.
Oh,
Be
so-
awesome because performers will never stop. Maybe at a certain level you would, but I have never gotten to that level, and that's fine. I love the level I'm on, but I am insecure about like I do not want to alienate one single fan. I feel like I still have the insecurity from when I was 22
Well,
years
is that
old.
insecurity or is that a moral
Yes.
obligation?
No, I think it is. It's both.
Okay.
I want
okay.
to do it because more than anything to my audience, I always want to be a hero. When I do the show on Friday night, I want to be their hero. When I do a stand-up show, I want to be their hero. And when I meet them in person, like I've had the experience of meeting someone who I liked from afar,
Yeah.
and then they disappointed me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I
You
want
never
to be, I
forget
want to
that.
be the, you don't.
That's right. You never
And
forget, and then
I
you'll
wanna-
tell everyone
I
too.
want to be the opposite.
Yeah.
I want to be the, wow, he really engaged, not for long.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know me like that.
Yeah, right.
But
Yeah.
like, I don't ignore you either, or I don't take for granted
Yes.
that I think a certain way in this world and I speak a certain way and I have a certain type of audience, apropos to your point before about what have I lost? Yeah, I have lost some audience. I have. The super woke left the building, and again, I don't miss them.
Mhm.
People who are indoctrinated into one way of thinking and never really hear anything that gets into that bubble. That's not what I don't find that interesting or getting to reality. So I do have somewhat of a different audience. Anyway, so when I meet people who are across the board, I still meet the old super liberal folks who love it. and now I meet like, yeah, more, but I always met certain conservatives always were respectful of my show. They felt like this is a guy who is a liberal, but he is not afraid to criticize his own side.
Uh-huh.
It just got more exponential because the left got crazier.
Uh-huh.
Since about 2015 is when Jonathan Haidt says it began with the
Yeah, that
Gen
seems
Z.
about
and
right.
that's when trigger warnings and,
Mhm.
what happened was we switched generations and the people.
Well, and we had the social media technology and the
Yeah,
cell phone
yes,
come along.
yes, that was a big part of
Yeah,
it.
yeah, it enabled the psychopaths
Yes.
fundamentally.
Yes. I mean, look, Elon Musk has definitely changed. You can't tell me he hasn't changed. Do I think he's evil? I don't. But I do think he's changed. And it's because of what he calls the woke mind virus. He thinks he lost his son. He talked to you about it, as I recall.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's also something you don't forget.
Well, I can't endorse where he's gone. I can't endorse voting for Trump in any possible way, and he's for Trump. And I think he did a great thing in taking over Twitter because
And so
Twitter,
you think that the moderate left is recoverable?
yeah,
You think the universities are recoverable?
no.
Why not?
They
Okay,
have-
so how do
we
you
have
draw?
to go in there with the flamethrower. There's a big difference. I mentioned this on my show at the end of it last week. There's a big difference between Democratic politicians who generally are a sane crop. They're too timid, yes, about calling out their far left, but they are generally a sane crop. They're not for and would not get on the page with legislatively, for example, defunding the police.
They've been pretty useless on the trans butchery side of things.
Like I say, not standing up against that stuff. Exactly. You're right.
8,000. That's
But
8,000 double mastectomies of minors so far.
Compared to the worst Republican politicians, it's not even close. The Republican politicians are way worse. You could say, and I would agree with you if you did, that there are crazies on each side. I would add to that, and in the Republican side, they have found a place for them. Unfortunately, it's in elective politics. But the people, not just the politicians on the far left, they're the ones who are so obnoxious, the ones who control culture, the ones in the media, the ones on what used to be on Twitter. That's what I was saying about Elon. He did a good thing. He drove the woke out of Twitter the way St. Patrick drove the snakes out of Ireland. But then instead of creating what would have been like the internet version of what I think I'm doing, a place where you have a kind of a centrist view, where you have maybe, generally center left, but not afraid to call out the left, but also realistic about how dangerous the right is. But he didn't. He went full bore and just switched it all over to the super right. So now we just have Twitter's mirror image.
Let me ask you about that.
And it should have been Twitter, the middle place.
Well, some of this is a technical problem, eh? And what I mean by that is that these new social communication technologies are landscapes that lack governance, and no one knows exactly how to do it, right? It's not like Mark Zuckerberg knows how to regulate Facebook. No, I'm serious. It's really okay. Now, but there's some reasons for that too.
You're right.
So the anonymity that the social media platforms allows the psychopathic narcissist types that are all a real danger to civilization. It allows them free reign, and they're amplified because they what would you say? They parasitize negative emotion, and they're amplified. And now it's the case that throughout history, when the psychopathic minority, which is about 4% of the population, gets the upper hand, that all hell breaks loose. This happens all the time. And what I see happening in the social media world is the rise of exactly those sorts of people. They'll say anything they can possibly imagine, regardless of political orientation, because they're just using that as a weapon to draw power and resources to themselves. And there's plenty of them. And they have come out in staggering numbers on the far right in the aftermath of October 7th. And it's a seriously ugly thing to see. But it's also, we're trying to solve that. So tell me what you think about this. We tried to solve that with Peterson Academy. So we built a social media network into it. Now, there's a couple of differences between it and Twitter. And the first difference, and I really want to know what you think about this, is there's a price of entry. You have to pay $40 a month. So here's a hypothesis to be part of Peterson Academy and to participate in the social media network.
$40 a month.
Well,
it's nothing.
I know. We have the most progressive university in the world. High quality education
that's so
for everyone.
That's so Canadian.
Yeah. So
$40.
well, so
You can't get a Mai Tai for $40 in this town.
yeah, we think we can get people a bachelor's level at equivalent education for $2,000.
Mm.
That's the plan, and I think we can do it. We have the
So
capital.
you're
to do it
teaching
now.
like the old school curriculum. Please say yes.
Yes.
Like what I learned.
Yes.
I mean, European history, it's not evil just because it happened in Europe. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're teaching.
I mean,
it's
like,
going to be a classic
look,
liberal curriculum,
right.
fundamentally.
And like, that's not to
tilted,
say,
I suppose, to some degree
and look,
towards the conservative side.
do I think that in my fabulous Cornell education, they gave short shrift to Asia and Africa? I do. I think I probably should know more about Asian and African history. But
Yeah, but at least you know something.
well, I don't
You
know.
got to start
I
somewhere.
don't know much, but I'm sorry, but there is less that's relevant to the modern world. Because again, the ideas
So
that
Eurocentric bigot.
I'm not a bigot. I know you're joking, but no, I'm just saying if the ideas that came through, as I mentioned before, Athens and Rome and Jerusalem and London and Paris and Philadelphia, if they had come through Dakar and I don't know, Timbuktu, and I would be, I'm sorry, but they didn't. So should I study these civilizations more? Yes, but you then have to prove to me that, you know,
Now you've just lost like another 100,000 woke fans. You know, it's like the way they've gone.
they're already gone.
Yeah.
They're already gone, brother.
Yeah.
They're already gone. And it's okay. Maybe they'll come back, but you know, I mean, it's very hard to reach the indoctrinated on either side. I mean, I saw you got in trouble because you said Kamala Harris's fans, she talks to them like
retarded children.
Okay. Did you see the debate last night?
I did.
I mean, what could be more retarded
It was rough.
than saying the immigrants are eating the cats and the dogs? I mean, come on, man. I mean, come on. It's kind of asking for trouble when you position the one person, and again, people are binary in their thinking, but when you use that word about, which I agree.
Okay, so let me ask you a question about that. So I think Trump made a mistake last night
Showing up.
in not making more of the nature of his team. So let me walk you through that and tell me what you think about it. So you already admitted, for example, or agreed that the universities are in dire shape.
Horrible.
Okay. So now the question is...
I call it the source of the problem.
Yes, okay.
The mouth of the river from which all the woke nonsense flows.
Yeah.
The mouth of the river is what I would say.
Yes,
Academia.
and I agree with that sentiment. I think it's true. And we know perfectly well that the university faculties are tilted radically to the left, that there's far fewer classic liberals than there were, say, 30 years ago, and there's virtually no conservatives.
Right.
So it's very tilted.
And the phrase ivory tower, you know, sometimes something becomes such a cliche you don't hear it anymore, but that's perfect. It's really what it is. The Ivy League ivory towers. They're living in towers. They don't understand.
Towers of Babel, as it turns out.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Which is kind of the Eve story retold. You know, you cannot know what God is like.
Yes.
Don't eat the apple.
Yes.
Don't try to climb up to me.
That's right. It's a story of pride again.
All those themes recapitulate. I mean, I'm getting this from your book. I mean, I knew it before, but the way you get at that again, it's just, it was.
I have the next one written too, eh?
Such a pleasure.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
No, really. I mean, there's so few things left for adults. Everything is geared, and look,
it's that impulsive gratification that we were talking about earlier. A society that's tilted towards that. Well, you talked about immaturity, you know, and that requirement for immediate gratification is like the definition of immaturity.
The problem is parents used to go see movies, and now they give kids their money to go see the movies they want to see. That's what happened in the movie industry.
Right.
But, I mean, I'm not a parent. I probably shouldn't comment on it.
So the Twitter issue. So I think part of the problem, you tell me what you think about this, is that part of the problem with the social media networks is that they're free. Because
No,
look,
it's just that Elon is constantly, just writing true about some insanity. It's the thing that happened last night at the debate with
well, I know for a fact.
the immigrants are eating the cats, and like the human mind, you know this better than me because this is your life's work, but it's just such an amazing place that you can be so brilliant as to be able to figure out electric cars and how to relaunch a rocket from Mars back to Earth. But like the stupidest thing someone puts up on Twitter, he will retweet and say true.
I know that the far right mob that
Come on,
emerged after October 7th, I know for a fact that they're attempting to manipulate Musk and draw him into a web that amplifies their views.
Well, it's working.
I know that. I understand that.
But he should, like I said, he had the chance to take Twitter and twist it away from the far lefties who had made it a ridiculous place. My line about Twitter was always, anything I want to say on Twitter, I can't say on Twitter. That was the problem with Twitter, because the school moms were pointing their finger at you.
Yes,
and saying,
I've
"You're a
noticed that."
bigot." And he completely switched it around. But he should have just gone halfway.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. So I have some friends who've been looking into the rise of the far-right anti-Semitic psychopathic types on Twitter and elsewhere. And they've done very deep analysis, tracing the sources of funding as well.
From the left.
The people who are doing this?
From the left.
No, the right-wingers.
The right-wing Jew haters.
Yeah.
Because there's ones on both sides now.
Yeah, definitely. That's for sure. There's plenty of them. And which is worse? It's like, I don't know. It's like,
I'm much more afraid of the left Jew haters.
Yeah, I think that's right at the moment.
I mean, the right ones were always there.
Yeah. Yeah, they're more there now than they were, though, too.
That's the tiki torch, Jews will not replace us crowd.
Yeah.
They were always there. That's a problem. We should keep an eye on it. It's bad. It's real bad.
Yeah.
But what's new?
It's globalize the intifada? That sort of anti-Semitism?
Hamas will save us. Hamas is coming.
Yeah.
I mean, just read their signs. Hamas is coming, like that's a good thing.
You know that women between the ages of 18 and 35 get almost all of their news from TikTok, eh?
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. So that TikTok, I think the stats we have is it's 60-1 Hamas versus Israel in terms of messaging.
Well, women between 18 and 35 get most of their news from TikTok, but also from what I tell them. Okay.
What's the demography of your fan group? Yeah, right.
It's not that.
No, definitely not.
No, it's can you imagine
Okay, so
anyone 18 listening to this conversation? I mean, they would have to be and there's always those 18-year-olds out there. There's always that 1% of kids, no matter how bad the system gets, you can't stop them from being smart. You can't stop them from knowing shit. And
even if you send them to university, you mean?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
They're intellectually curious, and especially with the internet and everything else, that what gets on their radar, what sticks, in their head, is just enormous. And it's always impressive to me to meet somebody young like that who knows so many things. But the vast majority of them, I could go on and on about the educational system, and I'm sure you could too. But I mean, we've passed.
That's why we're trying to replace it.
Yes. And I'm glad you are. And Barry Weiss, I'm sure you know this, started a university.
Yeah.
And I say the more the merrier.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, obviously we can't just have one.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be successful because, success in any market is finding a niche that is not being exploited. Something where the market goes, we need that, or else you have to invent a need. People did that. Nobody thought they needed $5 coffee.
Yeah.
And nobody thought they needed an iPhone. But people have always, I think, thought, I want my kids to actually get a real education. I mean, isn't that the success of Catholic schools in this country? People go to Catholic schools in greater numbers than ever who are not Catholic.
Yeah.
because it's one of the last places you can get a serious education where there's
Careful. You're starting to sound like someone who's pro-religious
I
again.
am not pro-religious. I'm an atheist, and I have tremendous bitterness against the Catholics who personally made me an unhappy child.
What happened?
What happened? I was raised Catholic is what happened. What
Were
happened
there
was
specific
church
things?
and catechism and nuns who fucking hit you with a ruler and anxiety about I have to memorize 100 questions like where do I come from? God made me. Like I still have I saved it, the mimeograph sheet. I can still smell it. Where I had to know 100 questions like where is God? God is everywhere. I mean, some of them you could just guess. But when you're 7, it's traumatizing. Make a 7-year-old memorize 100 questions about the fucking world. And again,
Yeah, well, a lot of people who tilt towards atheism aren't doing it only for reasons of rationality. They're also doing it because they were hurt by bad religious actors.
oh, I'm completely open to admitting that.
Yeah,
Fuck them.
Yeah.
And I love to put them out of business, but I also rationally believe it's the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that future historians will say that humans actually exited their medieval period when theism died. We think we exited our medieval period with the advent of the scientific revolution and when science became a thing around 1500 or whenever, Da Vinci and Copernicus and okay, I think they will say it's when we stopped as a general thing. There will always be pockets of resistance, but generally stopped being theists. I think they will say that's when humanity entered their post-medieval period.
So for me,
I throw the glove down, sir.
Well, the problem I have with that, and have had for a long time, is that there's always going to be something that tries to rise up to occupy the highest possible place. Always. Because there's a drive towards unity socially and psychologically. And so
you're saying
maybe
better religion than what replaces
well,
it?
no, not necessarily.
No,
because
that's not a ridiculous theory.
Well,
because I've seen religion replaced by this kind of QAnon thing.
Yeah,
QAnon
right?
is kind of a religion.
Yeah, so is wokeism.
So is wokeism. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they're both very deleterious.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, do I think QAnon, which is quasi-Christian nationalism, is worse than old school Christianity? Yeah, I do.
Okay,
I do.
so why? Why is it
because
worse?
QAnon is wrapped up with dumb ideas like, if the guy you want to win the presidency doesn't win, ignore it and install your guy anyway, because they believe, getting back to the other conversation about Trumpism, they believe that the other side is such an existential threat. And again, the other side gives them so much ammunition to believe this, that they think anything is justifiable. In Vietnam, they used to say, we had to destroy the village
to save it, yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is, like, if you destroy democracy to save America, you are destroying the village to save it.
See, you asked me earlier why I'm trying to, say, revitalize a corpse. And my answer to that is that, well, that's a very old idea, that idea. And the reason for that is
Which is something religion does.
It does that repeatedly. It does that repeatedly.
Lazarus.
Right. Well, it's a motif, right? The raising of the dead. And there's reasons for that, and that's one of them. I'm trying to separate the wheat from the chaff. Like, I became convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt when I was 20-something, early 20s, 21, that evil existed. And that raises the specter that good exists, at least as the opposite of whatever evil is. And so my religious pursuit, such as it is, and this is why I was interested in psychology as well, and biology for that matter, is because I wanted to contend with that particular problem. And what I'm trying to do is to separate the wheat from the chaff, because I see that there is a drive towards unity in knowledge, and something will strive to take the highest possible place. And what you see with the postmodernists, for example, the postmodern Marxists, because they tend to be the same bunch, is that they dispense with God, but they substitute power. And like, of all the gods you could worship, power might be the worst.
Yeah, power is
Right.
another way of saying what I was saying before. They substitute God for Mao, Stalin,
Yeah, right.
Kim Jong-un.
Exactly.
It is the same thing.
Yeah.
And
Well, and then there's an issue there. So,
Hirohito.
well, so if you had, imagine you had to pick two dictators even. And one believed that he was God himself. And the other believed that despite the fact that he had almost unlimited temporal power, there was something sovereign above him that he was beholden to. Which of the two would you pick? And there's a technical reason I'm actually asking that, because thousands of years ago, this happened in Mesopotamia, the Mesopotamians realized that the sovereign had to be subordinate to some abstract set of principles. He had to be the embodiment of something that was beyond him, or he wasn't valid as a sovereign. And it was a real shift in viewpoint, because you could imagine a situation where it's North Korea. What I say goes. And that means, and I'm saying that deeply, I'm saying whatever I say is right by definition. Right. That's a rough situation.
11 holes in one.
Yeah, exactly.
Do
While
not
inventing
question it.
hamburgers. Yeah. And so as civilization progressed, there was this abstraction of the idea of sovereignty as a principle itself, and that the leader should be subordinate to that. And that seems to be one of the applications of religious thought that's extreme. It's like rule of law, right? It's a similar idea. If you think there's a body of law, but there's a spirit that characterizes that body of law, right? Because it rotates, it's coherent. It rotates around a central axis. Well, the idea in the West is that if you're the king, if you're the president, you're subordinate to that body of law. You're not sovereignty itself. You're subject to something that's beyond you. Well, then the question becomes, well, you want that, obviously, because otherwise you're the guy. And then if you want that, it's like, well, what is that principle of ultimate sovereignty? And that's what I was trying to discover when I went through the biblical stories. It's like, what's the principle of ultimate sovereignty that unites these stories? So
You said before you had a follow-up book.
yeah,
What is it about?
it's about Job and about the Gospels.
Oh, some more.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say, if you want to keep on this thread, I mean, as a history major, I would love to see a book about all the same things that you're talking about, but get more into like the influences from the surrounding civilizations. Plainly, in the beginning, it's a lot about Egypt.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, Abraham.
I did this in the first book I wrote, in Maps of Meaning.
Oh, okay.
I talked a lot about Egypt and Mesopotamia in particular.
Yeah. I mean, like Abraham, he winds up in Egypt, right? Because
Right.
again, not to be always shitting on religion, how bad it is, but they're not really great about women. And among the terrible things they think about women is that if you're barren, it's really the worst thing it can be. I mean, a lot of the patriarchs, chicks were barren. Abraham is with Sarah.
Mhm.
She's barren. So he fucks.
He stays with her, though.
Stays with her, but he fucks the Egyptian maid,
Hagar.
Hagar. Jacob, I mean, he does have Joseph with the wife, but then he gets with Leah because she's the maid. Where was I going with this?
Oh, you were talking about what would you say, the lack of respect accorded to women in the patriarchal stories. Sarah is a pretty good character. She has her own adventure. You know, and one of the things you have to say about Genesis, the story of Genesis, that I really think is quite miraculous, is that there's an insistence right from the beginning that both men and women are made in the image of God. And that's a hell of a thing for a document that's 5,000 years old. That's a radical thing to say.
She's made out of his rib. What are you talking?
Yeah, but that makes her an equal. She's taken from his side. She's not taken from his head. She's not taken from his feet. She's taken from his side.
Why does that mean anything? What the side? Why?
Well, it's neither up nor down. It's in the middle.
And
they're both of the same. There's a variety of meanings. They're both of the same essence, and there's more to it than that too. Because
but she's from him.
Yeah, but
I mean, she doesn't exist before him.
Right, but women are also cultural creatures, right? So one of the common characterizations of culture is patriarchal culture, let's say. And women are creatures of patriarchal culture. They're derived from Adam in that manner. And that's part of the deep structural meaning of that story. Because
What does that mean to be a patriarchal creature?
a cultural creature, you're
Meaning?
socialized. You're socialized. You're not merely a biological entity.
But should you
Right.
be? Should be socialized? I mean, again, not to pile on with the religion, but like the Baptists, a number of denominations in this country follow quite seriously the writings in the New Testament. Women should be subservient to the husband, things that are very out of step with, I mean, even Harrison Butker, I don't think is on the page with all of this, but really out of step with where we are today. I mean, a woman should gracefully submit, I think, are words in the New Testament. I mean, gracefully submit, that
Well,
is...
let me throw two sticks in the spokes just for the sake of argument. All right, so this will probably get me in trouble, so we might as well do it. So women are hypergamous. So for maximum sexual arousal, they want
Excuse
men.
me, Professor Egghead,
Yeah.
but could you explain that term for us
Okay.
regular New Jersey denizens who only went 7 semesters?
Yeah. So the average age gap between men and women worldwide for maximal attraction is 4 years. The men are older.
Yeah, completely blown past the limit here. Okay.
Okay. Women like men of higher status
Oh,
than they
good.
are. Okay, so and that's the thing that predicts male sexual success best is his comparative status.
Yeah.
It's an immense predictor, and it's not the same with regard to women. So what that means, what it appears to mean, is that I'm not making a case for women's female subservience, by the way, but what it does appear to mean that for women to find a man sexually attractive, he has to be of higher status than she is. So what does that imply about their relationship? Does that mean that that's a relationship of equality? Like, I don't think it does.
I mean, yes, you are going to get in trouble for this
Yeah.
because people who are guys work for women. The women, their boss is or they're married to someone who makes more money than them. Are you saying that that's going to fuck up their sex life?
It does. The evidence for that's clear,
And
and it increases the divorce rate
There
by
is
a lot.
there's actual evidence for that.
definitely.
What is the evidence?
Well, one of the predictors of domestic violence is disproportionate earnings of the wife in comparison to the husband.
You're saying that when
Yeah.
the woman makes more money, the guy loses it and clocks her?
Yeah, that is
Oh,
exactly
my
what I'm saying.
God.
Yeah.
And we have
Or
evidence?
maybe she provokes him because she's contemptuous.
Oh, Lord.
Well, either of those are going to get us in trouble.
It's worse than I thought.
Mhm.
I'm so glad I never got married. And have a good salary. But, I mean, this kind of stuff.
And then, well, we could add another
It's-
twist to this too with regard to our treatment of women in the West. So, you know that half of women now at the age of 30 have no children. Half. And half of them will never have a child. And 90% of them will regret it. So that's involuntary childlessness.
How do we know they'll regret it?
Because there's enough data now to show what happens as
Like, at what age do they regret it?
well, they start to regret it generally around 30.
30.
Well, because by the time you're 30, 1 couple in 3 has trouble conceiving. And that's defined as trying for a year with no success. So already at 30,
Well, let's get that couple help. No, I'm kidding.
there's lots of technologies to help, but they're not that helpful and they're very expensive.
No. I mean, I find it always very amusing that the people who desperately want to have a kid very often can't, and the people who are desperately trying not to.
15-year-olds in the back of a car. Yeah, no kidding.
It's like, yeah.
Mhm.
But
Arbitrary fate.
I mean, I think we're on different sides of the population debate. I mean, I've always been on the page, let's have less people on Earth. And I think you're on the side of let's have more babies. I never understand that because, I mean, the resources of Earth are finite.
I don't think so.
How could they not be?
Because we get better and better at making more from less.
So we're depending on actually figuring that out before there's more.
Yes, that's right. Well, it's always been that way with people. That
So
is
you
what we
think-
do. That's our niche in a way. We're very good at that. We're
Okay.
very good at it. And
So-
we've been spectacularly successful at that
There's
since
8
the
billion people on
1960s.
8
Yeah.
billion people on Earth.
We're going to
Whoa.
peak at 9, by the way.
What do you think we could support? Unlimited? I mean, space-wise, we could have a lot more, of course. There's most of the land is empty.
There's no obvious limits. The
But-
limit is energy. And there's no obvious limit to
And
energy.
getting rid of waste.
You can bury waste pretty effectively. We're not going to run out of holes.
Bury waste?
Well, what kind of waste are you talking about?
All kinds. Pollution. What's ruining?
People are pretty good at making landfills.
What's ruining the ocean?
Overfishing mostly.
Overfishing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Mostly it's
that's to
overfishing.
feed people who you say there will be
Yeah,
more of.
it's
How
food.
could there be enough fish
Well, we could stop managing the resource stupidly.
if there's not now enough fish? How could there be?
Well, there's no real limit to agricultural production. It's energy is the limit.
But fish.
Well,
We
we,
just have to-
mismanage. Look, we mismanage the oceanic resources
We
terribly.
just give up
There's-
on fish.
Well, we probably destroyed 95% of the oceanic resources already.
And
now
you
they
say-
could probably
but
recover.
you say that
but-
in such a cavalier
no,
way.
it's terrible. It's terrible. It's a terrible thing. And like I did a deep
The
dive
world
into.
can't survive without the ocean.
Yeah, it's a terrible thing. It really is. I think the worst thing we've done ecologically is to decimate the fisheries. It's stupid too because it was unnecessary.
Right.
It was unnecessary. Like there's some evidence that already by the dawn of the 20th century that 95% of the oceanic resources were gone and that we've depleted another 95% since then. I mean, the accounts of how much fish there was in the ocean before, when the Europeans first came to North America, it's just stunning. Like schools of cod that were hundreds of feet deep and hundreds of miles long, with the average fish being something approximating 3 feet in length. And so thick that you could lower, buckets into the water and lift them up. And sea turtles that were so plentiful around the Caribbean islands that you could hear them dozens of miles away. Like there was so much plenitude that you just can't believe it when you read it.
Yeah, like the buffalo.
Well, at Cape Ann in Boston, 300 years ago, when there was a nor'easter, the beach, Crane Beach, 7 miles long, would be covered across its entire length with shellfish 3 feet deep. And now, if you go after a nor'easter, there's because I've walked that beach, 3 starfish and a.
You know where there's no cod? Cape Cod.
Yeah, there's no cod in Canada either. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean,
But I don't think there is a limit on. There's no obvious limit on human population sustainability
who we
except
need?
energy.
You know who we need is Jesus, because didn't he create fish out of nothing?
Yeah,
Isn't that one of his miracles?
it is.
And that's reported by St. Paul and his wife, Mrs. Paul, who was into fish. No. But yeah, we need a modern day. Well, what I find interesting
Well,
about that
the
is,
meaning of that story in part is that if we treated each other properly, there'd be more than enough to go around.
yeah.
Right?
No, the Jesus story is a beautiful philosophy. I mean, if you take the religion out of it, which Thomas Jefferson tried to do, he wrote a Bible and took out all the miracles and the bells and the whistles. But I mean, that was a revolutionary idea. I'm not sure if it's a great idea because of what I was bringing up before about losing the desire to fix things on earth. But the idea that it gets good in the afterlife, that was pretty new. I mean, that's not really.
It's also something like, it's a strange thing, Bill, because part of that is an extension of the idea of delay of gratification, which is what would you say? It's a necessary advancement for civilization. It's like defer your reward. That's the definition of maturity. Well, the limit to reward deferral is an afterlife. And so I think, at least in part psychologically, that the notion of an afterlife, the notion of something like a deferred eternal reward, is the logical consequence of deferred gratification.
Yeah.
So now your criticism is still right. I mean, if you defer everything to the afterlife, and you see this with, say, more pathological forms of Islamic fundamentalism, it's like, well, nothing on earth matters at all because everything accrues to you in the afterlife. Like, obviously, that idea can be pathologized. And I would say there might also even be a rule, like it might be, I don't know if this is true, but it might be that the best ideas are the ones that can be used by the most evil people for the worst possible purposes.
Yeah.
And that's part of that religious hypocrisy problem.
Well, you are not one of those evil people. I hope that whole thing you said about the oceans,
Ontario College of Psychologists would beg to differ.
that whatever you said about the oceans, I hope they show that in left-wing media because, like,
I did a whole series on
they-
oceanic mismanagement.
yeah, but they
No
don't
one
want to
watched it.
They don't want to talk about that because it just doesn't get clicks. Anyway,
No.
I could talk to you all night, but I gotta let you back.
Hey, thanks, Bill.
This
It's
was
always a pleasure
always
talking to you.
Such a pleasure.
Yeah, and I appreciate the comments on my book too, and the blurb. Thank you for that.
Club. Random.
That was the first book I've ever read completely on a tablet. I'm an old school book.
Club. Random.